Alright, what's happening, guys? Welcome to this episode here of the Watchdog. I'm your host, C.Jay Cox, joined here with the co-host today, Mr. Matt Hasselbauer.
Long time no speak.
Indeed, indeed. He is actually joining us for the first time on YouTube. Obviously, those of you who watch us on Facebook will always remember Mr. Hasselbauer is a long-time co-host here. This is only the third video that we've actually had on YouTube, so that's the reason why you wouldn't be seeing him on there yet. But nonetheless, so that you got that going for you. Anyways, by the way, before we get into that, we just want to say, if you guys want to catch this video with our lovely mugs actually on the video with a little bit more audio quality and on YouTube at your own leisure time, you can actually catch this video uploaded to YouTube. Remember, every Wednesday, videos actually do get uploaded to YouTube instead of just to Facebook. So before we get into articles, we got some stuff to talk about. Me and Mr. Matt here today. Namely, we are going to talk about some of the anti-Zionist conspiracy theories and things of that nature. So,
one thing I always like to bring up when people start talking about how Jews completely run the world, it's like, why is it being overrun by Palestinians? And why did the Holocaust happen? And why does everyone, defecate on the Jews 24/7?
yeah,
all the time?
exactly, right?
And once again, going back into the liberal left, going around like, we are anti-fascist, we are anti-Nazi, this, that, and the other, and we hate Jews. It's like, I don't think you're as anti-Nazi as you say.
Now, why are we going to be talking about this, by the way? Let me just say this real quick. The reason is because, as you guys who watch this show will know, I have been very adamant about my support of Stephen Banoun over at Israeli News Live. Still think he's a great reporter and one of the few reporters who's actually doing some very good work. However, he, along with a fellow by the name of Adam Green from No More News, the comedian Owen Benjamin, and a Catholic theologian by the name of E. Michael Jones, have caused a resurgence of, and let's not forget, of course, the famous Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, have caused a resurgence of these anti-Zionist conspiracy theories that claim that Zionism is the, real version of Illuminati, where the Jews are trying to take over the entire world and
let me just
blah,
move
blah, blah.
to a different country because mine sucks and try to make that country more like mine.
Well, and yeah, exactly right. That's Ilhan Omar pretty much perfectly. And the thing about that is basically completely false. I want to call out these people, namely because I don't see them ever discussing things with people who disagree with them. With one exception, E. Michael Jones did go on the Line of Fire to talk with Dr. Michael Brown. That was actually pretty cool. So give credit to him where credit is due. I don't think he did a very good job, but he was at least there. I want to talk to Stephen Banoun or Adam Green or Owen Benjamin or E. Michael Jones about this because I have a few questions. Basically, so here's the list of them, okay? If the Zionists control the world, then why exactly is 80% of the United Nations going against constantly the Israeli state? If the Zionists control the world, why is it that when we have Saudi Arabia's and Pakistan's and things like that, that Israel is the only nation in the entire world that's brought up by the UN on charges of abusing women's rights, quote unquote? Why is it, if Israel controls the entire world, that people who have strong pro-Israeli, pro-Zionist messages like Meir Kahane and the Koch Party, right, end up being banned, end up being assassinated, end up being, thrown out of debate circles and things of that nature?
Executed, thrown off buildings.
Exactly, right? Exactly, 100%. If there is a big giant Zionist conspiracy theory where the Zionists control the world, why is their state only the size of New Jersey, considering the fact that they've had it for 70 years now?
Let's not forget that.
Yeah, and why is it shrunk since its original greatest size, which
why
was...
are we trying to make them give up more to Palestine?
There you go, see?
We can go on, but we won't.
Exactly.
But we can.
The point is made. But it's so... Just want to briefly say... I know I titled this video calling out Zionists. It's not going to be the thing we're talking about the most. The reason I titled it that is because I want the people who are having these anti-Zionist conspiracies to see this. Come on to this show and explain to me these questions, okay? Because it doesn't make any sense to me.
What you got to lose? If you're so right, then come debate us.
Exactly. But let's get on to some articles, though, because we actually have a limited time here with Mr. Matt.
I'm hoping that we can burn through and get some good discussion on all of these articles and really have like a nice thick show with the time that I have to sacrifice here.
Right. Start from the bottom up, if you will.
Bottom up?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I was about to say what our last article was, so Good thing.
Word.
Yeah, we'll save our last article. We told you so. Spoiler alert for the last article. We told you so. We've told you so on multiple occasions. Find out at the end. New Vatican document put evangelization?
Evangelization, yeah.
Evangelization ahead of doctrine. Deep breath, because this is a Pope article.
Now remember, real quick, if you are not a religious person, that's not the point of reading these articles. The point of reading these articles is the Pope's attempts at globalism and uniting the different faiths.
The geopolitical actions of the Vatican State.
Exactly.
Rome, a new super dicastery on evangelization, might be one of the most significant reforms the governing structures of the Vatican, according to a new report. Spanish journalist Dario Manar Torres, writing for the weekly Vida Nueva? My Spanish is terrible, I do apologize. Reveals several elements of the new Vatican Constitution that has been in development for years. The biggest novelty in the document, called Paraedicate. Paradictate?
Matt only knows one language. We apologize.
I have dyslexia.
Well, he has dyslexia as well. But nonetheless.
Dang. For evangelization, which will potentially be more important than the Congregation of the Doctrine of Faith, CDF, often called the Supreme Congregation. Having its roots in the Roman Inquisition, the doctrinal office is the oldest among the congregations of the Roman Curia.
Okay, hold up real quick, right? Having its roots in the Roman Inquisition. Y'all remember what those are, right? So,
Crusade.
Very similar. Lots of murder. Let's continue.
And insiders still call it the Holy Office, as it's tasked with promulgating and defending Catholic doctrine and defending the Church from heresy. Y'all are not doing a good job. Y'all are fired. Today, in addition to defending the doctrine, it is also tasked with judging priests who have been accused of sexually abusing minors, with 17 officials dedicated almost exclusively to this task. Once again, touching back down, y'all need to be fired.
Yeah.
Straight up. Just a little side tangent, has there been anything done about the, Pennsylvanian sex ring we've been talking about for the past 8 months?
Oh, no. See, the last I heard, the Pennsylvania Attorney General was actually trying to go after the Catholic Church about that. And then it just dropped out of the news. Nobody's talking about it, despite the fact that there were well over 300 priests who were accused of raping well over 1,000 children.
One of them, the Archbishop of Washington, D.C.
Yeah, indeed. And that story just gone. Disappeared.
We'll just put a rug on it.
Exactly.
It's like when a white boy punches a hole in your wall and you just put a poster over it.
Comedy.
Another one of the novelties in the new constitution is that the Curia will no longer be divided into congregations, and the less prestigious pontifical councils instead will be an autonomous Vatican departments, will be called dicasteries, which has already been applied to several new bodies established by Pope Francis the Grand Blasphemous. The new super dicastery for evangelization will result from the merging of two already existing bodies, the Congregation of Evangelization for the Peoples, also known as Propaganda Fide.
I can't believe they actually call it that. Propaganda Fide. Oh, that's funny. That's hilarious. Continue.
That is tasked with overseeing missionary territories, talking about the Propaganda of Fide, and the Pontifical Council for the Promotion of New Evangelization that was created in 2010 by Pope Benedict the
16th.
Yes. To confront the rapid secularization of Western countries. Mentor's report is based on interviews had conducted with the Indian Cardinal Oswald Gracias and the Honduran Cardinal Oscar Rodriguez Maradiga, I think so. Both members of the Pope's Council of Cardinals of Adversaries, which was established at the beginning of Francis's pontificate to help reform Korea. Pope Francis is always underlines that the church is missionary. Mardiga told Vida Nueva.
So,
for this reason, it is logical that we put in the first place the dicastery of evangelization and not one of the doctrine of faith. That sentence had too many syllables. Apologize.
Well, so here's a few things, though, that you need to note, okay? So just to break this down, what you've just heard, okay? So, thing number one, the office which is basically in control of missionary works, which they call propaganda fide. I mean, that is just hilarious, right? And the office for combating the secularization of Western countries have merged into one, okay? So that's the first thing. And the second thing is the church has actively said evangelization is more important than doctrine. Now, for those of you who don't know, for those of you who may not be familiar with religious terms, evangelization is essentially missionary work. Yeah, exactly. It's going out of... So, in other words, getting people under the auspices of the Catholic Church is more important than the doctrine that the Catholic Church actually wants to believe.
That is what cults do.
It is exactly what cults do.
It doesn't matter what we are selling, just sell it. Exactly.
And you've already seen examples of this with what happened to China, with Pope Francis signing the deal over there that Cardinal Zen was obviously talking about, right? You've seen this in the World Alliance of Religions for Peace. Really, this is one of those things that if you've been watching the Watchdog, you should have kind of been expecting. We've been talking about things like this for quite a while. With that being said, though, I think you're seeing it blatantly and more in your face. You know, the more and more we go into history, the more and more we go into the future, rather. They're just not kind of hiding it anymore. It's just becoming more and more obvious. I mean, literally, the group that is dedicated to missionary work and the group that is dedicated to making sure Western countries do not become secularized, which does not mean atheist, by the way. For those of you who don't like the word secular, for those of you who are religious don't like the word secular. No, secular means without religion. See, secularism is actually what allows Matt over here and me over here, agnostic and Christian, to be in the same country without having the threat of wanting to kill each other, right? So secularism is not a bad thing. It can become a bad thing, just like everything without moderation can become a bad thing. But it is not in and of itself a bad thing. When the Catholic Church is telling you that they are going to mix their propaganda machine with the body that is meant to stop the secularization of Western countries, with the primary role of them being evangelization or conversion, right, over their own doctrines, then you have exactly the method for trying to get other groups under under your control, under the auspices of your organization. And for those of you who think that this is just some kind of crazy conspiracy, that was read from, I think, Crux Now, right?
Let's pull it up.
Yeah, this is not a conspiracy. Yeah, Crux Now. Crux Now is an official Vatican website. An official Vatican website, okay? It's like Vatican News. It's like LifeSite News, which is not Vatican, but officially Catholic.
Like Israeli News Live.
Exactly, right? These are official...
these are credible news sources.
Exactly. And, by the way, just a little side note for you guys. It's not like this is the only threat we have, right? 7 out of the 9 justices are Catholic. The leader of the NSA currently is Catholic. Trump's wife is a Catholic. 6 of the declared... presidential candidates right now are Catholic, right, with Buttigieg and Beto O'Rourke and all that kind of stuff. Now, of course, they're allowed to be that. We obviously don't want any religious persecution or anything like that.
We are not those guys. We have the right to disagree.
Exactly. However, you do have to wonder, it starts becoming a little bit suspicious when constantly this church seems to be organizing ways to, grow its own power, and now there's a whole bunch of people who happen to be representing it, running public offices. That's about all I got to say on the matter. You have anything else before we move on?
No, I've said my bits.
Yeah, I think we've had a good bit on that. Move on to things that are not about the Grand Blasphemous.
All right, UCLA hosts pole dancing class for students from Breitbart.com.
Because culture is horrible.
I am $30,000 in student debt, and all I can get a job at is McDonald's or somewhere else that does entry level, and they don't even care about my degree in Master's Feminist Dance Therapy.
Master's Feminist... Literally.
Y'all go out, get worthless-ass degrees, pardon my French, and it's the one person's fault, Dirk.
Literally. You thought art degrees and philosophy degrees and psychology degrees were bad. Try pole dancing.
Psychology, not so much.
Yeah, well, psychology and philosophy and art all actually can be used, just for the record. If anybody here thinks that I'm actually disparaging those, I'm actually not. It depends on what you use them for. Yeah, just don't be an idiot about it, okay? If you're going to get a philosophy major, then either write books about philosophy or go be a professor of philosophy.
And understand you're not going to make very much money at all.
Also that, yeah, accept your lot in life that you have chosen, because that is the life that you have chosen. It's okay to choose that lot in life, but you need to accept it, right? Anyways, we're getting off topic, though. Let's talk about the degradation of American culture in the fact that UCLA wants to have pole dancing classes, because that is completely disgusting.
Students at UCLA learned about the art of pole dancing last week in a sexploration pole class.
Oh, my goodness.
Exploration with an S in front of it. Sexploration.
That was made on Tumblr.
Hosted by 2 official university divisions at the school, which promises to teach the basic moves needed to become a magnificent pole dancer. How to become a professional stripper. Jesus Christ.
Not his fault.
You sit there and ask me why I don't believe in God anymore, and here we are reading this. The university's pole dancing class entitled Sexploration Pole Class, which was hosted last week by the UCLA Sexual Health Coalition and UCLA Housing, advertised itself as a general public introduction to the basic moves needed to become a magnificent pole dancer, as well as students who explore their inner diva/devo. Calling all pole newbies to pole enthusiasts your chance to explore your inner diva and devo. Read the class description on its Facebook event page. Get introduced to basic moves needed to become a magnificent pole dancer. Space is limited for this and is very popular class, added the description. According to UCLA student newspaper, the Daily Bruin, Sexploration Pole class was taught by Candace Kane, a Los Angeles area pole dancing instructor, who said she planned to begin the class by allowing students to get acclimated to the pole. I am hoping that students will gain more confidence in their appearance, said Kane to the students' newspaper, because when you see yourself accomplishing something that you thought you couldn't, it opens up a whole nother world. Just a feeling of good doing something makes people feel more confident. This isn't good doing, this is debacle. Kane added that she believes pole dancing is valuable for students who feel comfortable with their own bodies, suggesting it may help them better enjoy intimacy and in their relationships, by opening up plenty of doors for them to cheat on their partner. Ellen Mendelsohn.
Is that what you said or the article?
That's what I said.
Nice. That was good.
Ellen Mendelsohn, a freshman who said that she would be attending the class, told the student newspaper that pole dancing is good for sexual empowerment and combating objectification.
Okay.
No.
Told you so.
We're
Hold up.
done.
Told you so. This is the way the feminists operate, bro. They're like, hey, you want to know how we combat sexual objectification? By stripping, ladies! Yeah, I know, because that makes perfect sense, right? That's absolutely brilliant. Why don't we give these people the Nobel Prizes in being freaking retarded? Because they definitely have earned it at this point. We could give them PhDs in being dumber than a freaking iota of a bacteria's ass. Okay, excuse my French. That is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. But here's the thing. It's something that's constant. It's something that's constant. You see this in Free the Nipple. You see this in the Slut Walk. You see this in the fact that they want to support people like Emily Ratajkowski, right?
And having men be forced to wear their shirts. Bet you didn't hear about that one.
Well, I mean, you know what? Honestly, I'm not even surprised. Yeah, that's like, okay. But,
men need to cover up, but women can't. There was this article that I read. I want to say that I found it on the Daily Wire, but it was just one of those quick skim-throughs on Facebook. And I'm reading through this, and it's like, women need to be able to go topless, and men need to be forced to wear their shirts for years upon end to show them what it's like to know, to like not have to be able to have their shirts off, so women can do it. And it's like, what sense does that make?
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense at all. And by the way, let me just point out for the record too, I wouldn't even be 100% opposed to treating. I mean, not exactly the same, because it's not the same thing for a man to have a shirt off as a woman. That's just a fact. It is certainly still a sensual thing, and there's obviously, if you talk to somebody who's from the 1940s and the 1950s and the 1960s, right, some of those older folk, they actually don't really like it when some of these young, hot shots, quote unquote, have their shirts off and wear muscle tees and things like that. So, I'm not even necessarily opposed to people saying modesty needs to be consistent. However, that's obviously not what Matt's talking about right now, right?
Combating objectification by becoming sex workers.
It's the most ridiculous thing that you could... And it's funny, I recently had an argument with somebody that were saying that we need to, basically humanize sex workers is what they were saying. Which, first off, let me just point out, that's not a feminist thing. Male sex workers have it way worse than female sex workers by a long shot.
Dehumanized them.
And that's another thing too. They're not dehumanized. They're not necessarily respected, but they have their human rights for sure. Just as a perfect example,
liberty, pursuit of happiness, the Second Amendment, assembly, petition, speech, press, religion.
Yeah, exactly, right.
They're not slaves. They're not being forced to do this against their will for no pay.
Somebody commits a crime against them. That crime is still completely valid, right? All that other kind of stuff. But that doesn't make them morally correct. And this person was trying to say this, and then literally in the very next post was saying that modeling on Instagram was sexual objectification of women. So in other words, putting yourself out there is not sexual objectification of women, but partaking of the person who is putting themselves out there is sexual objectification of women. You follow? Neither do I, so don't worry. You're definitely not alone. This is just the same thing. You see in this Breitbart article the exact same thing, right? People are going out of their way to make the sexualization of women a liberation of women, which doesn't actually make any sense.
It's not even liberating so much as it is degrading, teaching them that wearing less clothes is empowering and this, that, and the other, and you should be a proud slut and you should be okay with people knowing how many 50 fucking 3,000 or whatever. Pardon my French. The point is, y'all are saying that we can't objectify you. And here you are objectifying yourselves for us and then getting mad at us for looking and addressing the facts.
And let's be perfectly honest about this too. Y'all know that people like myself and Matt and other social conservatives are the only people who have ever been logically consistent on this matter. We've always said that it's wrong for both parties, right? We've always said that it's wrong for people to, like Donald Trump, to go out and objectify women. But it's also wrong for people like Donald Trump's wife to put themselves all over the magazines if they want to be respected in the same way that, for example, Ivanka Trump is. Somebody who's a businesswoman, somebody who's decided that she's going to take herself into a realm of respectability and of being somebody of, an official status. Right? And she's very successful at it, by the way. She's a multi-billionaire businesswoman. I think that's really about everything that we actually need to cover on that particular regard. Just more
We've
notation
covered this
for
1,000 times.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Same shit, different day.
So yeah, let's get on to our next article here. We do want to say real quick though, just to get a little bit of a dig here. For the record, if people were actually following the things that God says, we wouldn't be reading this article, Mr. Matt. But
he's not real, so
you're not real.
You're not real. This is all a simulation. All right.
Anyways, so what's our next article?
You from Infowars.com.
This is actually a video, I'm pretty sure, but nonetheless, it's a video about Bernie Sanders saying that we are going to actually give people like the Boston Bomber the right to vote.
This is a 20-minute video.
Okay, we don't want to watch the whole video, so just so you know, we're not going to be watching the whole thing, but just some key details of basically the video itself and maybe some commentary.
Here, give me just 1 second.
Word.
Because I know what this article is about, I know what Bernie said, and it's just, I'm trying to find the bit where he says it, like a solid, maybe 2-minute, 30-second video.
Yeah, exactly.
Senator Bernie Sanders stirring up some controversy in New Hampshire. The presidential candidate saying that all convicted felons should still have the right to vote.
And that even includes the Boston Marathon bomber, a convicted terrorist. Michelle Fisher is here in studio with more. Michelle?
That's exactly right, Chris and Kate. Presidential hopeful Bernie Sanders says that everyone, even convicted
CBS
felons
News, by the way.
in prison, should have the right to vote.
I think the right to vote is inherent to our democracy. Yes, even for terrible people.
A Harvard student posed the question during a CNN town hall in Manchester, New Hampshire last night. Sanders went on to say that people who commit crimes are in jail and are paying their price to society, and that should not take away their right to participate in our democracy, as challengers also weighed in.
I do believe that when you are out, when you have served your sentence, then part of being restored to society is that you are part of the political life of this nation again.
I have been long an advocate of making sure that the formerly incarcerated are not denied a right to vote.
But people who are convicted in prison, like the Boston Marathon bomber, on death row, people who are convicted of sexual assault, they should be able to vote?
I think we should have that conversation.
As for Sanders, he did acknowledge that his controversial answer was essentially writing a 30-second opposition ad against himself. Chris?
And right he is, because that is one of the stupidest things the Democrats have actually, proposed. Although, by now, the list is so astronomically large that it's hard to actually, put any sort of numbers to it as to what is actually the stupidest thing that they've said. What is, I mean, what more can you say? The man was literally asked point blank, would you let the Boston Marathon bomber vote? And he said yes.
I'm sorry, I just went to the, I found another video on the Boston bomber, because I'm just trying to skim through these and see if I can find another bit where he, right. We have him, saying it directly.
Well, what it was is that the questioner actually asked him, what actually might be best, honestly, is try to get it on YouTube. Just look it up.
First of all, he should not have the right to vote, because first of all, he's not even an American citizen.
What, the Boston bomber?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that is true, actually. Don't quote me on that. I'm not 100% positive on that, but I'm pretty...
Read the name and tell me if that's an American citizen.
Well, to be fair, he could have. Dzhokhar Tsarnaev. Dzhokhar Tsarnaev is what that sounds like. Yeah. So that's definitely not an English name, bare minimum. But, I mean, so, what do you possibly even comment on that, right? At that point, it's like, I don't know. I don't know what kind of commentary you can even give on that, because, if you say, oh, it's insane and it's ludicrous, you just kind of sound like somebody on Vox, you know what I mean? Not giving any sort of proper sourcing for your argument. But at the same time, it's kind of hard, how do you properly source something when we don't actually agree on basic fundamentals, like whether or not people who have murdered folks, who have bombed our country, who have raped people, can vote?
He is an American citizen.
He is?
Yep.
Okay.
Apparently.
All right. So we've gotten that confirmed. I mean, Bernie Sanders is completely out of his mind, and everybody should already know this because Bernie Sanders is a raging socialist. Bernie Sanders and other folk like him, like Stephen Colbert, like Katy Perry, like George Clooney, right? Like all these other super famous new age social mediaites, AOC, right? Ilhan Omar. They're communists, and they want to have a communist revolution here. And as a matter of fact, they're not even actually really communists. They're anarcho-communists, which is a very specific American sort of communism. It's very similar to their ideas that they have here of democratic socialism, although to be fair, Denmark is not a socialist nation, Bernie. But anyways, yeah, I mean, there's not much more to be commenting on that. Anything that you want to say about that?
No.
Yeah, I didn't think so. Kind of just speaks for itself. Let's move on to our next point. We've gotten 28 minutes into this article.
These things are obvious.
Indeed. What is our next article, anyway?
Our next article is the U.S. now ranks as a problematic place for journalists.
This is an article we are reading ironically, by the way, because it's full of garbage. Hot, stinking garbage.
The United States has become a less safe place for journalists, and the threats they face are becoming standard, according to a new report by International Press Freedom Organization. Reporters Sans Frontières and Reporters Without Borders dropped the U.S. number 48 out of 100 on the World Press Freedom Index, 3 notches lower than its place last year. This move downgrades from a country of satisfactory place to work freely to a problematic place for journalists. Never before have U.S. journalists been subjected to so many death threats or turned so often private security firms for protection, the report said. 10 journalists have been physically attacked this year and 46 since 2017. In January, one reporter was punched in the face and her phone was stolen while interviewing voters in California. Last June, 5 people were killed while working at the Capital Gazette newsroom in Annapolis, MD. The man accused of shooting them had threatened the publication for years leading up to the attack. The report also pointed fingers at President Trump, who said it exacerbates press freedom problem when his repeated declarations that journalists are an enemy of the American people.
So now we pause, because there's a few things that need to be noted here, right? So
let's just address the fact.
First and foremost, well, hang on, because we got to know, okay, they placed us 48th. Please tell me what 47 countries are safer for journalists than this one. I would really like to hear this, because I think that you're full of absolute hot stinking garbage, is what I think.
And that
wrong.
And that President Trump just addresses journalists, like, out of the blue, like, blah, 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 this, that, or the other. You're an enemy to the American people. And he's like, no, he just says that every time CNN tries to fucking say anything at a press conference, because he's not having it. President Trump does not deal with CNN at all, and I genuinely cannot blame him for him. Every time they address him, they will twist his words. They will cut out parts of speeches to make him look like he is even worse than he already is. I will not say that or phrase it like I'm any sort of Trump supporter, because by no means is anyone on the Watchdog or American Cynic Party a supporter of Trump. But this is just hot stinking garbage. This is an absolute spin on what he does in press conferences, and it's a very blatant lie that we all know.
And let's be perfectly clear here, too. It's not like when he's saying the press is going against the American people, when he says that the press has a witch hunt against him, all these other kind of things. It's not like he's wrong, right? Much as we may dislike Donald Trump, he is right about a lot of things. One of the things he is right about, and this is not deniable, is there is implicit media bias towards the left wing. There's implicit media bias towards the left wing, religiously speaking, socially speaking, politically speaking, philosophically speaking, literally in every single way you can go. They are left wing, erudite, elitist scum. That is what they are, okay? And I say that, by the way, as a journalist, technically, sort of. Amateur journalist. So, asterisk on the word journalist. But,
yeah, give me just 1 second, because I got another bit I got to drill in here for a second. Press problems with his repeated declaration that journalists are an enemy of the American people, his accusations of fake news, his own calls to revoke broadcasting licenses, and his efforts to block specific outlets from access to the White House. Oh, like Jim Acosta, who will literally interrupt Trump every single second of a press conference to ask what his favorite color is.
Oh, by the way, let's be perfectly clear, too.
Idiot.
Aren't these the same people who say that Alex Jones needs to be blacklisted because he's not actually a proper journalist?
Yep, these same people that are saying that that the right is oppressing the left's media bias are the same people chopping out InfoWars, Gavin McInnes, Paul Joseph Watson,
Tommy Robinson,
Milo Yiannopoulos.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Everyone.
So, but this is NPR, by the way, the people who are writing this ridiculous article. So, talk about hypocrisy, but nonetheless, continue.
Raging hypocrisy. The president's relentless attacks against the press has created an environment which verbal, physical, and online threats and assault against journalists has become normalized. No, it hasn't, and it is not Trump's fault. RS interim executive director Sabine Doran tells NPR. She calls the situation in the United States unprecedented. But says Trump enhanced an environment that had already declined under President Obama. The left owning up to Obama failed.
I mean, that's at least a first, right?
Here we are 3 years later, and it finally took them to admit maybe it wasn't the best.
Possibly the worst.
Even before President Trump, the Obama administration was aggressively using the 1917 Espionage Act to prosecute more whistleblowers than any other previous administration combined. Let's read the 1917 Espionage Act for y'all the viewers who don't know what that is.
Real quick, though, before he does, I just want to say, credit where credit is due to NPR here. They are right, and that was a major, major problem with Barack Obama. So thank you, NPR, actually, for notating that. you could see this actually in the Julian Assange arrest, right? You could see this in the fact that Edward Snowden has been forced out of his own country and will probably die in Russia.
The Espionage Act of 1917 is U.S. state's federal law passed on June 15, 1917, shortly after the U.S. entry into World War I. It has been amended numerous times over the years and was originally found in Title 50 of the U.S. Code, but is now found under Title 18. Alright, let's find some more details on that. Blah, 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 blah.
The Espionage Act is the famous one where, of course
the
Woodrow Wilson
can spy on you.
Hey, get out of here. Sorry, cat. Not only can they spy on you, they can arrest you, okay?
For crimes you haven't committed yet.
And for going against their foreign policy. Can you believe that? It's completely ridiculous.
For actions you have not yet committed.
Woodrow Wilson literally arrested journalists under this Espionage Act for disagreeing with World War I. Yes, for disagreeing with it. A war that he disagreed with. So talk about hypocritical.
Remember the part where Woodrow Wilson was like, yeah, we should totally go to war, and Congress was like, no.
Which is funny, because, like I said, throughout the entire first term and a half of his presidency, he said,
during the start of the Great War. Absolute warmonger.
And he always pretended like he wasn't. He would be like, oh, yeah, no, I disagree with war, man. I don't believe in war. I'm a pacifist, bro.
First chance he got.
Yeah.
First chance he
exactly.
got on it.
Exactly. But let's continue on to this, though. I wanna finish this article up so we can get to some of the other ones as well.
All right.
Well, although you were going to read the details of the Espionage Act.
I think we covered as much as we need.
All right, that's right.
Courtney Ratch, Advocacy Director at the U.S. Committee to Protect Journalists, tells NPR and RSF's findings are not surprising. Reporters in the United States have been attacked by both police and protesters while covering demonstrations. And others have been targeted at the border by authorities. She says the anti-press rhetoric coming from the highest office can kind of set this tinder on fire. Accusations of fake news have led to exponential increases in imprisoned journalists. In 2016, 9 journalists were imprisoned under fake news charges worldwide, according to CPJ. That number rose to 28 in 2018, with an increasingly number of authoritarian leaders relying on the term to repress journalists. First of all, you don't want to get arrested for lying to the American people. Maybe don't lie to the American people.
Well, and for the record, notice what they did. Worldwide. America is becoming a rough place for journalists because worldwide, 28 journalists were arrested for fake news. What kind of sense does that make? We're talking about the United States of America, not the rest of the world.
Worldwide, so countries that don't have free speech.
Mm-hmm. Let me point out, too, that it was you guys, the leftist media, who decided that you were going to blacklist a bunch of conservatives as fake news. That you were going to blacklist InfoWars as fake news. You were going to blacklist Natural News as fake news. You were going to blacklist Breitbart as fake news, which, by the way, some of those groups I disagree with sometimes. Natural News, I'm not a fan of, right? InfoWars, I am not as much of a fan of anymore. They still come out with some good content every now and then. Obviously, I still use their articles as a protest against the establishment, but nonetheless. But and by the way, also let me point out that 28 is a very low number. Okay, it is a very low number. When they said 10 journalists died, that is also a very low number. It is a very low number. I'm sorry, it just simply is. Okay, it's probably less than 1% of 1% of journalists in this country.
Have been arrested worldwide, just no one's noticed.
I guarantee it.
Let's be honest here.
And how many of those journalists are in Russia, where free speech is not allowed? Or Islamic countries, exactly. Or in China. Or in any country in Europe right now, because those are, of course, very horrible places for free speech. That's why I said...
Tommy Robinson is one of those journalists on that list, by the way.
He should be. He definitely should be. If he's not, then you know that list is bogus. You know what I mean? Because Tommy Robinson got arrested for complete and total nonsense. Nonsense. And he's actually being charged with it again, as we all know. By the way, if you live in the state of... not the state, in the country of Britain, and you watch the show, which I highly doubt, but if you do... Please join UKIP. Please vote for Tommy Robinson to represent you in the European parliamentary elections, because that would be dope. I would love to see that. I'd love to see the heads of all leftists across the planet explode in glorious confetti over the fact that they were so furious, angry, what have you, all the other kind of insults and stuff like that about Tommy Robinson being a member of the European Parliament. I'd also like to see the same thing happen with Nigel Farage. Anyways, though, what do we have left on that? Is that pretty much the end of that article? I don't really...
That is pretty much the end. We did everything we could.
Yeah.
Everything that article was a lie.
Well, not everything. They did make some good points, that's for sure. It's just they make points that they themselves have made worse, you know what I mean, when it comes to, like, saying that certain journalists are arrested for fake news and stuff like that. Like, because in some of those cases, that's Julian Assange, who should not be cracked down on. That's Tommy Robinson, who should not be cracked down on. That's Alex Jones, who should not be cracked down on. Right-wing journalists, conservative journalists, not any of these, you know, certainly not news or anything like that. But nonetheless.
Street preaching should be made illegal. The stream.
Who wrote this article?
Stream.
Okay, cool. Yeah, people saying street preaching should be made illegal.
Alright. This is written by Michael Brown. At first glance, I thought this was a satire, just a clever comment meant to expose liberal hypocrisy, but upon further thought, I concluded that no, this was not satire at all, and this is meant to be taken seriously. I'm referring to a comment post to one of my YouTube videos, which was titled, London Mayor City's Limitations to Free Speech After Street Preachers' Arrests. Being a Bible street preacher should be made illegal as they often offend LGBT people.
I'm offended.
Alright. They all think that marriage is between a man and a woman. Only anyone who is against gay marriage should be named and shamed and face a judge in court. It should be faced a criminal offense to preach the Bible in public. This is preacher criminal. It's not 1819, it's 2019. Being gay is okay. Well done by police officers arresting another evil bigot. The LGBT community will agree with me. Bible street preachers must be forced out of our city centers when they preach. LGBT lessons and homosexuality must be promoted to children from the ages of 4 so they grow up to respect gay people. And at least Muslims don't do this, so they are peaceful and law-abiding citizens and don't bring up any 9/11. And don't bring up 9/11 Manchester and ISIS, as they are not Muslims. Muslims do not kill people. Evil people kill. I am not gay. I am not Muslim. I am a liberal and I believe in love. You, sir, are a fucking idiot. And there is no nice way to put it. There is no kind way to put that you are a hypocritical idiot. You are so blinded by your own self-righteousness, you can't even see your own oppression that you are forcing onto other people. As an agnostic theist, someone who does not participate in religion, you are a filthy shill and oppressing the Christianity. You are disgusting. You are subhuman.
I don't really have to say anything, right? It does it for me. I like it. See, and by the way, I just want to always point out, just because there's a lot of losers out there who don't understand this, you can totally live peacefully with people who you disagree with religiously, and even come to agree on basic matters like, I don't know, freedom.
This guy's like one of my closest pals, and I tell him God's not real once a day.
Man, those of you who watch this live actually don't get quite as much antics, so I'm sorry about that. But nonetheless, yeah, I mean, you see this, right? And of course, they don't want to say the same thing for gay pride parades or for slut walks.
The left does not want to coexist. The left wants to cut out everything that disagrees with us. It comes back to Antifa. It comes back to the LGBTQ movement. It comes back to Black Lives Matter. They're all fascist, oppressing organizations. They are fascists. They are telling you you cannot stand out there and preach religion while at the same time they can preach their homosexuality. They are fascists. They are trying to cut you out and make sure that your voice isn't heard so that your crowd grows smaller and smaller and smaller while their lives grow bigger and bigger and bigger, and they're the ones in control. It's all about power, and they're trying to get all of it. Stay woke.
Yeah. Right? It's like, Sargon of Akkad says it's a new woke priesthood, and I think he's absolutely correct. They're turning humanism and secularism and atheism and social hedonism and things like that into a new religion. And unfortunately, you're actually seeing some of the former advocates of free speech and stuff like that fall into this trap. A lot of them are not. There are a lot of people who, despite religious differences with the Christian community, are actually standing with the Christian community on this matter. For example, Ben Shapiro, who's Jewish, Matt, of course, who is atheist, or agnostic, sorry. Somebody who is actually an outright atheist of Sargon of Akkad, though, who actually is also on the defending side.
I don't even want to read the rest of this article, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, it's disgusting, is really what it is.
I know all I need to know is that they are the ones doing the oppressing.
And remember, Sadiq Khan, the mayor of London, actually was pointing out, but in the left's terminology was pointing out limits on free speech when he arrested these street preachers, who I believe are actually message believers, if I'm not mistaken. That might not be true, but I seem to recall that being the case. I mean, and of course, it's not something we're terribly surprised about, considering the fact that we are talking about Britain, and we're talking about a place that's controlled by leftists. They, of course, did the whole thing with Tommy Robinson, killed Alfie Evans and Charlie Gard. Things I will not ever let go on this program. I just would like you to know. By the way, tune in every July 28th, literally for the rest of time that I'm alive, at least, for a Charlie Gard special where we're basically just going to trash the socialist government of Britain. Anyways, back to the point.
Justice for Charlie and Alfie.
Indeed. I mean,
what more is there to say?
Yeah, exactly, right? This is the point of view of the left. If you don't want this kind of a totalitarian dictatorship, if you want us to be able to dialogue peacefully and to actually go on
and
as a cohesive society.
Through this talk.
Exactly.
Figure out what works and what doesn't, instead of sitting there crying because someone called you a queer.
Exactly.
Who cares? Sticks and stones may break your bones, but words will never hurt you. People don't understand that anymore. People need thicker skin and to just stop being so... I can't go into a triggering statement because that'll trigger me. I'm triggered by triggers, okay?
Triggerception.
Straight up. Let's go into some good news, however, by the way.
Huh.
Giving USA 2017 total charitable donations rise to a new high of $390.05 billion.
Very nice. Very nice. Good news, right?
These, let's just burn through this one in a couple of minutes because it's not that much, you know?
Yeah.
Total giving rose 2.7% in current dollars, 1.4% adjusted for inflation from the revised estimate of a lot of numbers here. Billion for giving total in 2015. Please see below for more detailed breakdown of the numbers for each philanthropic source and editor. Giving USA, the longest term running and most comprehensive record of its kind in America, is published by Giving USA Foundation, a public service initiative of Giving Institute. Is research written by the Indian University Lilly Family School of Philanthropy. Charitable giving from individuals, foundations, and corporations all increased in 2016, while gifts by estates decreased sharply. Giving to all 9 major categories of recipients, organizations grew, making 2016 the 6th time in the past 40 years that this has occurred. The 9 categories are religion, education, human services, giving foundations, human health, public society benefits, arts, culture, humanities, international affairs, and environment and animals. This report tells us Americans remained generous in 2016, despite it being a year punctuated by economic and political uncertainty, said Aggie Sweeney, CFRE, chair of Giving USA Foundation and senior counsel at Campbell & Company. We saw growth in every major sector, indicating the resilience of philanthropy and diverse motivations from donors. The rise in total giving was spurred largely by giving individuals, which increased nearly 4% in 2016. Awesome. Americans have a lot of money. We're really feeling that 4% GDP. Once again, we're going to touch back down since I mentioned 4% GDP. Not a Trump supporter. Economic wizard, though. Economic wizard.
And let me point out, too, since we have this... Now, granted, this article is, of course, 3 years old now, but, of course, even if it has gotten smaller since then...
3 years old.
Didn't they say 2016? Well, the statistics are 3 years old at least.
Well, this is 2 years old. It was
2 years old.
12, 2017.
this still proves that Americans are actually very giving. We are very charitable as a people, which is a very good thing. We shouldn't get arrogant about that because, of course, that would cause its own problems. But when liberals go out of their way to say, hey, no, the rich don't actually take care of their own, when they say, hey, you can't actually give to Notre Dame because you're not giving to the poor of the world and all that other kind of stuff, when they try to shame churches and things like that because of the charity that they give, or shame the rich for the charity that they give, or shame orphanages for the charity that they give, it's false. Okay, it's false. Americans actually do give quite a bit of money in charity, more money than any person on the entire planet has, 2 and almost, in fact, 3 times, if you take the $170 billion that Jeff Bezos has, or Bezos, whatever, however you say his last name, right? Times that by 4, you'd get 410. That's just $20 billion more dollars than the $390.05 billion that we actually gave as a country in charity, which is 390.05 times the amount that the entire world gave to Notre Dame, by the way. So those of you who keep complaining about Notre Dame, I just want to throw that out there. But yeah, very good news, right? Nice to see that Americans are giving. We, of course, always firmly endorse charity here on the Watchdog. Charity is one of the best things you can do. And it doesn't even have to be giving to a particular charity. You know what I mean? Something as simple as giving a homeless person $5 or, donating your corn.
That, and that's all under the table stuff.
I know, exactly, right? Exactly. So, give your fair share in charity if you can, of course, right? We all try. We all need to. It's better for us as a society to care for each other. So, like that good news. But, nonetheless.
Final article.
Did you guys guess it?
Yep, babies were killed after failed abortions. They were taken by the doctor and turned face down in saline.
Those of you who got it, leave a comment down below letting us know that you guessed it. Let's continue.
Her words hung there in the air crowded in North Carolina Embassy. I've been a witness, State Representative Pat McElrath told the quiet crush of people lining up her gallery. She described the horrible moment she saw tiny bodies stored at a doctor's office. Nurses told the stories of those babies who were born alive, she remembers. They were taken by the doctor and turned face down in the saline. Then, looking around the chamber, she says quietly, infanticide is what happened here. Whether it keeps happening or is now up for one man, Democratic Governor Roy Cooper. Like so many of the abortion debates since New York, it was an intense one, but in the end it took less than 24 hours for North Carolina to do what the Democrats and National Congress will not. Step up and stop legal infanticide. Even after flipping an impressive number of state seats blue, Democratic leaders in North Carolina still couldn't overcome the national tide against newborn violence. After a quick 28-19 vote in the Senate Monday night, House raced to follow suit, handling pro-lifers. A massive victory with 65-46 vote on Thursday afternoon, and the sending the Born Alive Abortion Survivors Protection Act straight to the governor's desk. Cooper has 10 days to decide if he stands with the radicals like Senator Bernie Sanders or thousands of innocent babies. While Sanders and company rush to save cats and dogs, they have no sense rescuing actual human beings whose only crime is being born. On Monday night, Sanders reiterated the Democrats' extremism, telling a room full of Pennsylvanians that killing is okay if it doesn't happen often. I think that happens very, very rarely, Sanders said. At the end of the day, the decision over an abortion belongs to a woman and her physician. No! Stop! No! We're done here. And her physician? You're saying that 2 people get a vote, but not the dad?
Kind of like that you brought that hypocrisy up. I wasn't even thinking about that. And, of course, this is just
straight
a
up murder.
Perfect example of exactly what
it's
Ben
not
Shapiro...
straight up murder?
No, of course it's straight up murder. This is infanticide like no other. By the way, I remember just the other day I was getting in an argument with this pro-death advocate, right? And they were saying, how could you compare the abortionists to Nazis? And it's like, you're right. The Nazis stopped at 11 million, right? So, really, abortion's worse. But... I'm not kidding, actually, by the way. I know that sounds facetious and, like, head grabbing. That is my honest opinion. I mean, when we're at, like, 70-some-odd million babies being aborted. Yeah, that's a significant amount worse than the 11 million killed by Hitler.
Generations upon generations upon generations. In the life of an unborn baby, there could have been the cure for cancer, AIDS, solution for world hunger. just an all-around good dude, maybe even. Who fucking cares? That's a life you ended. That's on you.
And what you people don't seem to realize is that this is going on all the time. Okay?
Every day, down the street.
Exactly.
Local Planned Parenthood.
Exactly. There, follow the group Abolish Human Abortion. They've been talking about this stuff since 2009 or 10. You know what I mean? When people say, oh, failed abortions that end up in the baby's death don't actually happen. Bull. Lies. Not true. Falsehoods. Okay? It happens all the time.
Incorrect.
And not only does it happen all the time, but it is supported by people on the left wing in this country. Okay? And even some people on the right wing on this country, which is incredibly disconcerting to me. 1 second, I think I have to sneeze. Whew.
Bless you.
Thank you. So yeah, don't say we didn't tell you so. Don't say Christian apologists and conservative speakers didn't tell you so. Don't say that people who wanted moralizing, quote unquote, in the society didn't tell you so. This is where American society is at. And there is no compromise at this point. You do not compromise with people who literally advocate infanticide. At all. Period. Okay? You don't compromise with Nazis. Now, that's not a call to violence, by the way. What up?
Oh, damn. I know you told me not to scroll through memes, but I opened Facebook for 1 second and I found this absolute gem. Sorry to interrupt, but Texas committee passes bill to decriminalize firearms, silencers, and end support for federal enforcement.
Let's give a round of applause to Texas for being dope. Congratulations, Texas.
1986, an Automatic Weapons Firearm Act.
Yeah,
Every single gun law is an infringement.
Let's be perfectly clear. That is correct. And that's basically all you need to know.
Yep, and that's...
Yeah, that's the show, actually. So, thank you guys for watching. Obviously, you can catch us here at TheCynicogue if you're watching this on YouTube. Subscribe if you like this. Leave any questions, comments, concerns, or criticisms down below, because we welcome all of them as advocates of free speech. You can go to the American Cynic Party and like us there, where you can actually catch all of our live shows, though you won't be able to see this absolutely fantastic face. Just kidding. And you can like us on ACP Official at Gab, Cynic Thought on Instagram, or Terrestrial Earthbird on Twitter, where we do stuff and things. So,
Terrestrial Earthbird.
So I gotta tell the story behind that. So it's actually a play on. I like alternate history, and I'm actually writing some alternate history stories that, in theory, will be done at some point. And one of the terms in alternate history is alien space bats, right? To say it's something that's just not possible, it would never happen. And so I was like, all right, well, how about the most pragmatic thing in the world, a terrestrial Earthbird? So in other words, a chicken. Because they're terrestrial, they're on the Earth, they're a bird.
Birds.
Exactly. Or a penguin, preferably a penguin. Penguins are cooler. But my last name is Cox. Cock is, of course, male chicken, so we're going to go with chickens. Nonetheless, you can go to any of those places and like us. Catch the Unapologetics program this weekend if you're on TheCynicogue. And, of course, Watchdogs every Wednesday. Shalom. Have a good rest of your evening, fools.